Welcome to The Recovering Perfectionist, where you'll learn all the hacks you need to get started and finished on your business or project. You'll connect with successful entrepreneurs who are in perfectionist rehab, unapologetically experimenting and balancing life, business, family, and me time. I'm your host and Chief Recovering Perfectionist, Claire Barton. Hello everybody, it's Claire Barton from The Recovering Perfectionist here, and I have got the gorgeous Melinda Kitto with me today. How are you going, Melinda?
I'm fabulous.
Fantastic. Now, Melinda is, amongst many other things, a beautiful online business coach and messaging strategist. What does it all mean? You can tell us what it means.
What does it mean? So I work with really mega talented service-based businesswomen who have a fantastic service and know that they can create like incredible transformation in their clients' lives. But I find a lot of these women struggle to actually articulate what they do in a compelling way. So I guess that fancy title just means that I work with these women to help them kind of really nail their business message so that it's like, it just cuts through the bullshit online and gets like the right people to sit up and go, oh my God, that's exactly what I need.
Yes.
So that's what that means.
I totally love it. And as you know, and probably as people listening know, such a big part of what I'm doing these days is also around content and message and making sure that, we've been doing the 5-day challenge this week. It's probably a few weeks ago by the time this goes to air. But the first thing that we do is to try and refine your core message. And it was a really interesting learning for me because a lot of people were coming into the group and sharing their kind of elevator pitch, which to me is definitely intrinsically related to your core message, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
So I'm totally digging, having a bit of a chat with you about this and unwrapping what it all kind of means. So maybe before we kind of go any further into all of that sort of thing, can you tell us about why it's important to understand your core message and who needs to know what the core message is and how do you kind of get it across, and maybe some of the processes that you go through? I know that's like 15 questions in one.
Yeah, no worries. I got it.
Yeah. Hit me.
No, you might have to ask a few of those again.
Okay.
For me, I've come to the realization that messaging is like fundamental to your business. And I think it's one of those things that's overlooked, and not that people don't understand how important it is, but they just don't spend the time to really sit with what their message is. And I actually just did a live stream on this because there needs to kind of be a bit of a distinction, because I think sometimes when we talk about message, we think that it has to be like something from deep within our soul, that like I've got this message that I need to shake the world with, and maybe you do, and that's absolutely awesome. But when I'm talking about messaging, I'm simply talking about being able to describe what you do in a compelling way that makes sense and that makes people actually, it compels them to take this particular action that you want them to take, like to download your free thing or to buy your product or your service. It's about how you communicate your message in a way that makes people take a particular action. So I think some people go, they sit with, oh, well, what is my message? And they're searching for some profound spiritual thing. But a lot of the time it's simply like, well, just can you describe what you do in a way that makes people go, oh yeah, that's exactly what I need.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I totally agree. And I think when we first start, it's different to what it looks like 6 months later, 12 months later, and all that sort of thing. But you're right. We do spend so much time agonizing over purpose and these big, deep and meaningful, and people come up with these amazing words and it sounds beautiful. But when you tell someone, they still go, so what do you do?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
What do you actually do? And I know I've definitely been guilty of it. And, there was I guess it's a bit of a fad a while ago where you kind of made up your own names and you made up your own words. And it was very interesting and it was very creative and it was really fun, but it still was really freaking confusing to the people you're talking to. So,
oh my gosh, that's one of my bugbears actually, because it's like, we think that we're being really clever by coming up with this thing. And I think secretly there's this thing, like if I come up with a really interesting title, then people go, oh, what does that mean? But they don't do that. They just go, huh? And then they move on. Like, I mean, one thing with messaging, it's like, it's great to be clever, but it's so much more important to be clear.
Yes.
Because you only have that millisecond to make an impression and to have somebody go, oh, yes, I need to speak to you.
Yeah.
And if you're going, well, I'm a transformational, blah, 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 like just you smush all these words together to create this fancy title. It's like, I don't get it. Like, just be clear.
It's so like if you say something like that, there is a certain group of people who go, oh yeah, I totally get it. Like I know it, but they're in the same sort of thing and they're probably doing similar work or whatever. But the people who are more likely to actually need your services are the ones who are still going, huh? And I think there's, in the online business world, and certainly the people who I work with very often, they are doing these things that most people have never heard of before. They do have modalities, or they do have that core message that is kind of different. And often it's like, they know what we need. We think we need something else, or we, whatever. And that there's that kind of big gap between that whole sell them what they want, give them what they need sort of thing.
Yes.
So you've got to do the want stuff. You've got to talk in the same language. And that's why I think things like avatar interviews and just really paying attention to the sort of language and the sort of, how people talk and how people talk to each other and that sort of thing when they're your ideal client, and getting, niching that down is so difficult. We all know it doesn't happen overnight. You don't come into business and automatically nail your message and get all of your perfect customers the first day. And if you do, start selling that as a course, because it doesn't happen, sort of thing.
Package that shit up.
Package that shit up, exactly. And get Melinda Kitto to help you with your messaging on it, right? So can you tell us a bit about, like, why is this important to you? Have you had some sort of messaging journey, for want of a better word? I hate the word journey. Is there something like, why is this important to you? Why is this your thing?
Isn't it funny that often what we struggle with the most is actually what we're meant to end up serving the world with? Because I would say that messaging, I've always been a great communicator. So I can write well, I can communicate well on video and all that kind of thing. So I kind of always thought that it was a strength of mine. And I would get good engagement on my blog posts and videos and whatever. They're like, oh, I love this, and which is all great. But what I actually struggled with is then getting people to actually then do anything about it.
Yeah, sure.
And so if I look back, I would go, man, my messaging used to be so shit. And I think I had that confusion with like, oh, what is my deep message I want to share with the world? And instead of just actually going, well, I need to talk about what I do in a way that makes people do something.
Yeah.
So, and it's just so funny because this phrase, I'd heard it for so many years of like, out of your mess comes your message. And I needed to have that experience of having good communication but not having compelling messaging, because now it has made me realize that it literally is fundamental to everything that you do. If you can't talk about what you do in a compelling way that makes sense, then nothing else matters. And I don't want to say your business is dead in the water, but like, kind of dead in the water. Like you've got to be able to communicate what you do in a compelling way. Yeah. And I think one of my, and I'm definitely not alone in this, I was trying to leapfrog ahead to all of these like 6-figure and 7-figure business strategies. Like I wanted the funnel and I wanted this and that and all these really fancy puzzle pieces. But none of that matters in the slightest. If, like, to me, it comes down to 3 core skills. If you don't know how to create an offer that is irresistible to the people that you want to attract, if you don't know how to talk about that offer in a compelling way, and then if you don't know how to sell, you don't have the foundations of any kind of business. And I was trying to like leapfrog over that stuff because it was kind of a bit hard, and I didn't want to sell, and I didn't want to, and I didn't want to do all those sort of yucky things. Yeah. Like, so I'm like, I'll just build a funnel because then it's all automatic and that'll sell for me, and then I don't have to get on the phone. So I was trying to leapfrog ahead to these advanced business strategies. But what I've come to realize is that, gosh, if you're trying to build a funnel, great. But if you can't put an irresistible offer in there, and if you can't talk about it in a way that's, going to make people do anything about it, and then if you don't actually know intrinsically how to sell just one-on-one, how is that funnel going to do anything? It's not. So I guess that's my messaging journey. And it's funny, like when you actually start to look look at what am I actually good at? And when I sat down and did that, I'm like, well, actually, I've always been really good with words and really good with saying, like finding a way to say what somebody's trying to say in a nice way.
Yep.
And so I'm the girl amongst my group of friends that were like, there's a guy on Tinder like, oh, what should I say? I'm like, okay, you should say this. And they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. So it's kind of like what I've naturally done. And I just hadn't made that connection. And I suppose the culmination of that, like once I actually sat down and thought, well, what's my special thing? Because I was trying to promote myself as a business coach for a long time, which is the service that I was providing, but I just wasn't getting anybody putting their hand up and going, yes, that's what I need.
Yeah.
Because there are thousands of business coaches out there, and there are thousands of like, what does even a business coach mean? Like I could be a business coach for corporate environments. I could be a business coach focusing on bricks and mortar retail stuff. And so the biggest shift for me was actually going, well, what is the thing that I want to hang my hat on, that I want to go, this is what I'm awesome at. This is my shtick. It's what I use to get people in the door. And literally the minute that I went, I think I'm pretty good at messaging. That's what I naturally seem to help people with. Yeah. The minute I made that decision was the transformational point for my business. Because I did a 3-minute live stream as I was walking out the door. I'm like, oh my God, I've just had this epiphany. Like, this is what I should specialize in. This is what I'm really good at. And I didn't mention any links. I didn't put any offers out, but I had 3 people stalk me, find my website, book in a session, and all of them became my first ever premium clients.
Crazy.
In a week.
Yeah.
And I didn't even say, hey, if you want to be a client or if you want my help with, no, I just said, oh my God, this is what I'm really good at. This is what I want to specialize in. Yeah. And it was that.
Do you know what? And I everything that you just said, being good with words, being the one, like my sister and my dad and I used to play a game where we'd get the dictionary and you'd pick a number. So you'd go to the page, you'd say column 1, 2, 3 or 4 and give a number for which number down, and we'd have to spell the word and give the definition of it. And that was like our idea of hours worth of fun. So I'm the same. Good with words, good with like all that kind of articulating, and I get really frustrated when someone can't articulate really, really well. Yeah. Mainly because I just want to jump in and give them a hug and say, it's okay, this is what we're going to do instead. Like, this is how we're going to articulate it. Yeah. So pretty much everything that you just said, including the getting to the point of realizing what your niche is. Yeah. What she said. I don't know which side the. And I just want to just pause there for a second, because for anyone who's listening who is not at that point, I think most people come into business and we're told, like, there's always someone who says, you have to niche, you're too broad, you have to niche. And we go like this, I want to work with women in business.
I've already niched,
niche. Like, that's pretty niche. And then I was exactly the same. Like, I kind of dabbled with VA and ops manager and then business coach, and now I'm like, actually, with everything with Batshit Crazy and the challenge and the retreats and all of that sort of thing, it's content strategy. And it's kind of scary to say I'm a content strategist, because you are niche and then you're expected to know a lot more, like about messaging or about content, whatever you kind of niche in. Yeah. But it is exactly what happens is when people go, oh, that's what you do. Okay, cool. Yeah, I need someone to do that. And I'm going to sign up. And, when it was a process in that I tried things, I worked out what I definitely didn't want to do. I kept trying things and worked out some things that I really love doing, and also some things that I love doing for myself but hated doing for other people, and vice versa. Yes. And it is a process. Like, I don't think there's any way that you can come into a business and go, this is exactly the person I'm going to work with. I'm going to say no to everyone else. If anyone asks me to do anything outside this scope of work, so I'm going to say no. When we first start, we're just like, yes, I can do that. How do I do that? I better go Google something and work out how to do that. Yeah, I can do that. I'll just go and watch YouTube so I can work out how to do that. So, like, we totally kind of get into that space of fear of, like, if I say no, they'll go somewhere else, or if I say no, I'll look stupid or whatever. So we kind of do work it out, and that's part of the process, right? Because that very quickly shows you the stuff that is not your zone of genius. Like,
absolutely,
I'm really techie, and in the corporate world I was really techie, but in online business world, 1 out of 5 techie. Like, not techie, not very techie. But I had to go through that process to understand it. So I think, exactly. When you get to the point, we've kind of gone on a bit of a tangent, but in that sense, like, the messaging is almost like you've got to kind of just try it out. And we've talked a lot about
gosh.
experimentation and play on this podcast about giving yourself permission to not get it perfect straight up. And like I agonized at the beginning of my business, like, what do I call myself though? Like, what's my title? What do I put on my business card or my email signature? And I would change it literally probably every 3 days. I'd change it on my Facebook page, sometimes on my website, and definitely on my email signature, like every time I came up with a new idea. So I started off by saying, like, I'm really good at organizing things. So do you need me to organize something for you? I'm planning. Can I plan something for you? And then I was like, I want to be a VA. And then like you kind of just go through all these different iterations when you kind of have a bit of a play around with it and work out what. And then some people are like, so what is that? And you're like, okay, that doesn't really work. And I was at one point calling myself like an organizational time bending guru of some sort. Like, what the hell does that even mean?
Oh, I need that.
What are you talking about? But yeah, it's totally a process.
Oh, and you have to go through it, and this is the hard thing, because when you get to a certain point and then you look backwards, you can always connect the dots of like, man, I needed that lesson here, that's why this didn't work. So looking back, you can connect the dots and realize that everything was working to bring you to this point. But it is very hard when you're standing here and looking forward that those dots will continue to connect. But it's a total trust thing, and if you can look back and go, well, they all connected here, so it's going to continue going forward. But I think one of the other things as well that you just mentioned that is a real fear around niching is that it's kind of an ego thing sometimes. It's like, oh, but I'm so much more than that. Like, I can't niche down to just messaging because I actually help people with all these other things. And yes, that's great. I'm sure you have a buffet of things that you can help people with, but that is going to destroy your messaging is if you keep on trying to offer this all you can eat buffet. Like, if you're standing on the street corner going, I can help you with anything, like nobody comes over and goes, oh, can you help me with this? Like, I literally see people, and it's from the best intentions, doing a post for a free coaching session, and it's like, we can jump on the phone and talk about anything that you want. And from their heart, they're probably thinking, well, this is a great offer because literally everybody could take it up, but nobody does. Like, they're the posts that get no likes and no comments. But if you were to actually be specific, like, who needs some help with like creating a content plan? Like, people go, oh yeah, that's exactly what I need. Like, you have to give something like, I always use the analogy of like rock climbing, that you have to give them enough grip to kind of like, if they're climbing up that wall and each of those ledges are kind of a little bit slippery and a little bit vague, like, you've got to give them enough grip to attach onto what you're doing. Like, yes, that's exactly what I need. What it doesn't mean though is that you have to scrap the rest of your services and just go, I no longer offer these.
Do those things. That's right.
Because for me, messaging is simply my way of opening the door. It's my way of saying, hey, is this something that you really struggle with? Because I see a lot of women do struggle with it. And then they go, yes, that's what I need help with. Then when I connect with somebody on the phone, I can give them some strategies to help with their messaging. But then I can also say, you know what, it sounds to me like you're really not very confident in your whole sales process, or it sounds to me like you're struggling to put together an offer that's really compelling. So I can still say, like, I actually help with those things as well. So if you were to work with me, not only can I help you with this, but I'll help you with this and this. And imagine what your business would look like if we got all those things happening and rocking for you. And then they've gone from like, oh my God, I need that, to, oh my God, I need you.
So
that's the thing. Like, niching can be scary for people, but you must, well, in my opinion anyway, because it's what I see working, you must niche to at least open the door. And then when you open the door, you still have your buffet. You don't have to give any of that up. But they're not going to see the buffet unless you have the specials pulled out the front. I just made that analogy up, but let's go with it.
We totally love analogies on this show, as in I totally love analogies, and I'm always using really, really bad ones. So well done. No, that was really cool.
I'll write that one down.
Yeah, exactly. No, that makes a lot of sense. I think it totally makes a lot of sense, and it is scary because it does mean that you have to be very specific, and you do have to be shit hot at that thing that you're niching in, because that's what you're going to be known for, and that's what you, as you said, that's your specials board. If your specials board is, I don't know, wrong, it's got, I don't know, wasabi peas on it, See, I told you I'm really bad at analogies, but if it's got the wrong stuff on it, or if
I was right there, like I was right there.
Totally there. Hey, you knew where I was trying to go with that. Then, there's still got to be a level of consistency. Like you can't say, hey, I do content strategy, come over here and do some content strategy, and then go, oh, actually, I'm not really good at content strategy, but I can show you all these other things. Like you've still got to be fantastic at that first thing. But I totally agree.
And it's got to be something that you love. Like it's got to be something that you could talk about, not forever, because you can always shift if you need to, but like it's got to be something that you, like you said before, you might love doing it for yourself, but do you actually love doing it for others?
Exactly.
And what I love about it is it's really, it's not easy per se, but there's very simple tweaks that people can make that can radically transform their results. And I say that because that was my experience. Like literally just going, okay, I'm going to specialize in this, was all it took for me to go from not making any money in my business or like a little trickle of income to like being able to sign premium clients totally easily. And I don't say that to sound arrogant. I just say that because that's literally my experience. And when you get your messaging right, I don't have a funnel that works right now. I just have a very simple process of I know how to make an irresistible offer. I know how to message around it, and I'm comfortable selling it. And that can take you to whatever heights of business you want. And then I'll make a funnel later.
Yeah. Okay, I have two questions. I'm going to ask both of them so I don't forget. The first one is, when you're niching, how do you know when you've gotten to the right balance of not being so specific that there's like one person in the world who can work with you, and being too broad? So that's the first question. And what was the second question? Irresistible. I want to come back to irresistible because I want to know what actually makes an irresistible offer. So that's my second question. So first of all, how niche is too niche and how broad is too broad? How do you find that balance?
I think you're probably too broad if you're not to a point where people are like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I need. Like you have to come down that tight. I actually don't know if you can be so niche that, like, there are 8 billion, is it 8 billion? How many billion people are in this world? And how many billion of those are online? And if, there is a market for everything.
That's so true.
Like there's a niche for butterfly collectors. There are a niche for like sock, like whatever. There is a niche for everything. And so it's, if you can find that niche of people and build great messaging around what you're trying to do, there is a market for everything. So I'm not actually sure that you can go so niche.
Ooh, you heard it here first.
Let's not like put that as, maybe don't quote me as that, but I think genuinely it's more about your messaging around that offer, and it's about being able to put that offer in front of the eyes of that potential audience. I believe that everybody is out there, and yes, maybe your niche is super, super, super tight. That might mean that you need to be more premium, but it probably allows you to be more premium if your niche is that tight. That's what I'd say about that. I think cool. But here's the caveat, because sometimes, like, I encourage people to do market research, and sometimes there is this feedback like, I can't find anybody to do my market research. It's like, okay, well, if you cannot find anybody who's prepared to answer a couple of questions for you who are in this particular target market, then perhaps you shouldn't be trying to create a product or service for that target market. Because if you can't even find anybody to answer a couple of questions, then how are you going to find anybody who's actually then going to be willing to buy? I think,
truth bomb, baby. No, I think I see this a lot as well. So a lot of people who I've worked with, or who I've been kind of moving through business at the same pace with, we've started around the same time, we've all kind of done those avatar interviews, and some people redo them, or they've got a new product so they redo them. And it is definitely one thing that I see in a couple of like the mastermindy sort of groups that I'm in, about people saying, I've put this thing out here for avatar and no one's answered, no one's even liked it. Like, it's a really actually very prevalent thing, and part of me thinks it's because everyone wants it, and it can be time consuming and all that sort of thing. And in my experience, most of the time, if you get 10 people say yes, you'll get 5 people who actually show up and do it, right? which is unfortunate because I think there's some absolutely awesome things. I tend not to try and kind of get involved because it does end up being a bit time consuming at the moment. But back when I was starting, it was invaluable. But I think it's the same as doing an offer if you're selling something. It's got to be intriguing, it's got to be interesting, and it has to be valuable, because time is valuable to people. So if I'm going to spend half an hour answering your questions, I want to know exactly what the half an hour looks like that I'm going to get back. Even if, like, I know the idea of avatar interviews is that you take it away and then maybe design something, but I kind of still need to know what realm you're in and what context, and is it something that I need? So if we come back to what you were saying before, and you've mentioned the word irresistible a few times, and I know I see that in your messaging online all the time, which is such a sexy word. Like, it just is exactly what it needs to, is exactly what everything needs to be. And it's that kind of magnetism and irresistibility. And exactly like I said, for people to go, oh my God, I need that. And you just quickly, like I'm sort of the same thing. And I've gone, like I've said before, I've kind of gone through that whole, I do this and I do that. And people are like, so what do you do? And when I just say I organize stuff, or I help you get your business systems organized, or I help you plan your content, it doesn't have to be this big, long thing, but that's exactly then people go, oh my God, I need you in my life. Or, now it's sort of at the point where most, not most of the time, but often someone else will say, that's Claire, she helped me get my business shit together, or she helped me. And then everyone says, that's what I need, because it's so basic and it's so simple, and there's an outcome kind of thing without even saying it. So for people who are either starting out or established, like, how is there an audit thing? Is there a process to becoming irresistible? Is it something that you have to work with a Melinda Kitto to?
Oh, well, of course.
Like, is it a thing that you can do by yourself, or is it something that you need to have an expert with? What's kind of the ideal process to become irresistible in your messaging?
Yeah, obviously I would say yes, you definitely need to work with me. There's no secrets I could tell you here, but that's not true. One of the first steps that I would get people to focus on when it comes to making their offer irresistible, as opposed to like, cool, maybe I'd be interested, you have to focus on solving a problem. And not just solving a problem, but solving a conscious problem that your ideal people have. Because there are a billion examples that I could give here, but what many people do is they focus on the how, they focus on what they believe is their unique special sauce. And so you'll see a lot of posts in Facebook groups and things where they're kind of going, here's 3 free NLP sessions, and they're focusing on the modality or the tool, or they'll say, I'm going to show you how to, and they'll describe the actual thing that they're going to teach. But nobody gives a shit about that, because they are not conscious that they need NLP. Or what NLP could do for them. Nobody's sitting here necessarily looking for an NLP or a hypnotherapist or a whatever practitioner. They're not necessarily looking to learn a particular process. They are only conscious of their particular problem and how that problem manifests in their life, and then what they wish they could have instead. That's what they're conscious of. And so that's usually my first shift that I talk to people about, like, fuck your process, fuck your modality, because nobody cares. And a lot of people actually don't know what that modality can do for them. So when it comes to your messaging, it's about calling out a conscious problem that they have, and not just saying, do you wish you could lose weight? If we just look at that being the problem, think of the many thousand of modalities that you could lose to help somebody lose weight, and then the different processes or the different things that the different ways that we could help somebody to lose weight. So many people are focused on the ways and the modalities, but this person over here is just feeling fat. And so, it's not about going, do you feel fat? Because I can offer you, it's about kind of just. So my favorite way to describe this is that great messaging happens when you join the conversation that they are already having in their head. Good, huh?
Good one. Yeah, exactly.
So when you can actually enter that conversation that they're already having in their head and talk about not just the thing that they want to lose weight, but how that shows up for them. Like, you know, feeling embarrassed when, like, my kid's got a party at Flip Out tomorrow, like the trampoline place. And, you know, my first thought is, oh God, I've got to get on a trampoline and things are going to be bouncing around. Like, that's the secret stuff that people only talk about in their head. And they would very rarely voice that. And so if you can actually join that conversation and, you know, maybe use it as a self-example, like, oh my God, I used to be so embarrassed when my kids would get an invitation to a party because that would mean I'd have to jump around. And then people are like, oh my God, me too. And they're hooked into whatever it is that you have to say. And then you can kind of go, you know, like, all I wanted was to just be able to put on whatever outfit from my cupboard and just know that I wouldn't look like a stringed up pork roll or something like that. You know, what's the conversation that they're having in their head? Because now it actually doesn't matter what offer, solution, what modality, what process I'm going to use to help you with that, but you already believe that I can because I get it.
So that sounds like it's 99% of the whole thing is to get it, is to understand. And so in that sort of sense, I guess most of the time, like you said, our sort of thing that we do is what we needed 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. So in that sense, it's important to tap into that and to not try and be someone else and not try and use words that we wouldn't use ourselves, because we talk about this a lot with content, that when we come out of jobs or corporate or whatever, we've kind of had to take our whole personality out of our work, and accidentally when we come into our business, we're trying to be professional. Like we want to maintain that because that's what it is. But then you realize no one gets what you're talking about because they're not in corporate world either. And, you know, exactly like you and I were talking about before we hit record today, that I've listed this as explicit because I want to be able to swear, because I swear in real life and that's just how I talk. I don't swear as much as I probably did this morning because I'm very, very tired. But, you know, and I don't want to, and I don't swear to be offensive, and I certainly don't want to upset anyone. But also, if someone's going to get upset with the odd swear word, they're probably not like my ideal client, and
of course
together anyway. So
of course,
it is a massive block to get to the point of being okay with using your own language and having your own voice and having your opinion. Like we always talk about in our family, having the courage of your conviction. So if you've got an opinion, bloody well say it and stick to it. Like, you know, obviously you can be flexible. Anyway, we're getting off on completely different tangents.
But that's what we are craving. Like it's
in real life. It's like it's not this Instagram authentic. It's actual real authentic, right?
There's online business, but now it's social business. Like it's the majority of it's done through social media. And what do we crave? Like I always use Constance Hall as a great example. Like, why has she built such a following? Because she says the shit that everybody is thinking. And if you look through the comments, it's like, oh my God, I could have written this myself. Oh my God, I feel exactly the same way. And it's not that you need to necessarily like lay it all out on the table when you're in business, but authentic gets thrown around a lot. And I think some people like try to be authentic, and if you're trying to be authentic, then you're not being authentic. But genuinely, like I don't necessarily have to lay everything out on the table, but if I can just actually speak at a level, it's that internal conversation. Like the biggest thing for me, and this was actually before I realized that messaging was my thing, the biggest comment I used to get on my blogs and stuff was like, oh my God, I could have written this myself. And it's tapping into what the world looks like through your ideal client's eyes, and not just like, I'm overweight, I need to lose weight, as an example. It's like, well, what does that mean? How does that show up for me? What does that make me think and say and feel?
Why is it a bad thing in my head?
And then why, like, what do I wish I could experience instead? And here's where people get so vague when it comes to their messaging. Like, so many people say, we'll do a session and so you can start to have the life and business that you want.
Right.
I mean, great. But what does that actually mean? And that doesn't get anybody to go, oh my God, I need that. But when you can be a little bit more specific and say, you know, to create the kind of business that you can, you know, be there to pick up your kids when the school bell rings, that you can, like, that's not feeling like you change your laptop 24/7. I mean, those examples aren't amazing, but when you can actually tap into the things that, like,
totally, that actually bother you on a day-to-day basis. Yeah,
exactly. Sure. Like, not just like, here's how the problem manifests in my life. And then here's what, oh my gosh, if I could have that, I'd be so much happier. And, you know, just going, you'll feel better, you'll feel happier. Nobody gives a shit about that. But when you're given a specific example, imagine what life would look like if you could do this. They're like, oh my God, that's what I need. I need to speak to you.
Yeah.
That's the crux of what makes an offer irresistible, is just being able to look through your potential client's eyes and go, this is what shit and this is what you want instead.
Yeah. Then
it almost doesn't matter what my offer is or what my solution is, because you've already hooked into the fact that I can help you get there.
Yeah. And this is just so absolutely gold. And I totally resonate with absolutely everything you're saying. I think it's really, really valuable information. It's just completely awesome. And I think, like, one other thing I would add,
can we have like a firework effect
going
off?
Would you mind? Yeah, I'll totally get no, I can't do that. I told you before, I thought I was techie, and I'm not techie. I'm not as techie as I thought I was. But it also doesn't have to be like this epic, amazing, wordy, like, these are all your problems and this is how you wish you felt and this is how it shows up. Like, it doesn't have to be a 500-word post in a Facebook group if you're trying to sell something. Some of the most effective offers that I've put out has literally said, are you sick of being disorganized? Do you want to get more organized? Sign up here. And it's literally like 20 words or whatever and a link. And some of those, because it is simple and it is very easy to understand what the shit I'm talking about. It's not like this convoluted that you get halfway through and go, what was she talking? Yeah, maybe, but I'll just go and read the next thing. So have a play with the format as well as the words. And, you know, something else that you were saying before, that, you know, you use actual words that you would use. You don't, you know, we're kind of often told about, you know, these sexy words or hypnotic words and whatever. And like, yawn, some of them are great. Like some words do hit home, but they've got to be actual words and not just words that you got off a blog that said these are the top 100 words to use to get your blog read. Like, do you know what I mean? It's got to actually be a word that you use. And one activity that I often do with people is to ask your friends and family what words you always use. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm always going, well, I've got a 3 and a 4-year-old, and they'll come out with something and I'll be like, where did she get that from? Where did she? And then the next minute, the next day, I'll say it and I'm like, oh, I say it, don't I? Like, yeah, you say that all the time, but I don't even realize. So those sorts of things you use all the time. Like and everyone's got them. Everyone's got words that we religiously use, whether it's in context or not. Like, I always say gorgeous. And I went on this thing once to try and not write or say the word gorgeous for a week. And I think I probably lasted about 15 minutes or something. It's my word. Like, it's a word that I use. I always say gorge and gorgeous. So why would I stop using that in my copy? Because when you talk to me on the phone or on Skype, I'm going to say it all the time.
This may be a tangent, but I put a fun little experiment up in a group just last night, which was like, what is the phrase or term that absolutely drives you insane? Like, you can't stand it, even if it's for completely irrational reasons. And then a ton of people have commented. It's quite a funny thread. But then one of the interesting things about that is then people going, oh my God, I say that all the time. I better stop saying it. So I've now added a follow-up question of like, if you happen to be one of those people that uses a phrase that gives somebody else the shits, do you now feel like you need to change that? And if so, why? And my thing is any spin on the word entrepreneur, in particular mumpreneur. For me, it just makes me want to vomit. Like, I hate that phrase. I feel like it's devaluing and like diminishing, like, oh, you're not a real entrepreneur, you're just a mumpreneur. Like, I hate that. But that does not mean that you should stop using it if that's a phrase that you really resonate with. It just doesn't work for me. And that probably means that I'm not your ideal client. Some other people would find that word incredibly empowering. Like, I'm not just an entrepreneur, I'm a mumpreneur, which means I've got all these other balls that I'm juggling in here as well. For some people, that's a strengthening thing. And when it comes to your messaging, if you are turning people off, great, because it means you're saying something that people are actually paying attention to.
People. Exactly.
You have to kind of, and it's not that you need to be controversial for the sake of it. And like, look, mumpreneur isn't a controversial thing at all. But like, you know, you don't have to be edgy or controversial just for the sake of it. But if you're turning people off good, because at the same time, you're also turning people on.
Totally.
If you're not getting any kind of emotional reaction from people, then it means your messaging is beige and boring and nobody's giving a shit. So you have to kind of, it's taking the good with the bad. And, you know, yeah, like just say what works for you. Like some people would say, oh my God, I hate it when people call me gorgeous. Okay, don't be a client of mine.
Yeah. One of my favorite, you know, those memes, I think I actually was given it as a birthday card or something, probably from someone who knows me super well, and it's these two like old fashioned, like from the 50s women, and they've got their hair up in curlers, they're sitting at the hairdresser, got the apron on and that thing over the top of their head, whatever that was called, and they're like reading a magazine and they're looking all like gorgeous. There you go, gorgeous. And one of them says, what did you tell that bitch when she said she didn't like you? And the other woman's like, I said, well, then don't join my fan club. Fine. You don't like me, that's cool. Don't like, and just that whole, that is so relevant in business. It's so hard. It's definitely, for me, it's been one of the hardest things as a recovering perfectionist, a recovering yes girl, a recovering people pleaser, to actually be okay with not being loved by every single person. Me is the hardest thing, and it will probably all my life be the biggest thing that I struggle with. But that's okay, because I'm getting there. Like I'm moving forward and just going, you know, when I first started, and I remember there was someone in a group and they said they had a hater or they got trolled or something, and they were really upset about it, but they also kind of felt okay about it because, and then I remember a heap of people just going, that's awesome, you got your first hater. If you get a hater, it means you're reaching people and people are listening and people are have an opinion on your opinion, which is freaking awesome. And I was like, oh my God, what if someone ever said that to me? And then I got trolled probably 6 months ago, and it totally blew, like it just totally, something just really hurt. But then I also felt like, yeah, well, I got a hater now. So yeah, I've got one. Have you got any haters? Like, you know, and it's this whole sort of thing. But I think, you know, like I said, courage of your convictions is one of the biggest lessons and one of the hardest things to kind of do. But it's really freaking empowering. It makes your message and your niche and the people you want to work with come out of the woodwork, because they get it too. And if they don't, it's okay not to work with everyone. It's okay to say no to people. And
look, we are in business because we wanted to do things differently. Like how many women in particular left the corporate world because they didn't like the way it made them feel or what they were required to do. Like we are in this luxurious space of being able to create a business exactly how the fuck we want it to be. And swearing is a beautiful one, because like if I'm creating a business and I'm deliberately attracting people that I want to work with, I'm sorry, I don't want to work with people who are going to get offended by the fact that I swear, because, and this is a two-way street, right? Because I don't want to feel like I need to censor myself, because if I'm censoring a swear word, what else am I censoring as a way of not being offensive? And that also means from a client perspective that you won't get the best of me, because I'm up here thinking and being conscious of, oh, I hope I don't say the wrong thing and I hope I don't offend them. If you can just allow me to be my authentic self and just say whatever comes out, you will get the best of me. I'm not censoring myself or trying to be careful about saying the right or the wrong thing. So if you don't want that, if swearing offends you, then please be a client of somebody else's who can authentically speak from their heart without swear words, which is not me. Like you won't get the best of me, and I don't want to have to, I don't want to be up here. I just want to speak from here. And the right people, the thing is, yes, it turns some people off, but the ones who it turns on, they are so turned on by it that they're like, oh my God, I love you. And I would much rather say that people say that to me than go, I mean, she's all right.
Yeah, exactly. That's so true. So true. We might wrap it up because we could definitely talk for hours and hours.
I think we could. Where's that wine?
Yeah, seriously. People listening at home, we literally just chatted for about 15 minutes before and we were like, okay, let's hit record. Oh, but one more thing. We definitely can talk, as you can see. But Mel, what are some key takeaways? Like what actions can people take if they are as inspired by our conversation as I am? What can they actually go away and implement, start, stop, continue in their business that's going to make a really big difference in their messaging and connecting with the right people?
I would say get as specific as you possibly can. Like that, if you think you're being specific, I reckon I can find another level for you.
Yeah.
And sometimes that feels scary. Sometimes that feels like that you might be missing people. But the fact is, if you're being vague, if you're being general, you are missing them anyway, because it's not making anybody sit up and pay attention. I would rather have 5 people on a really specific thing go, yes, that's exactly what I need, than be trying to reach 1,000 at a time and getting none. And when you do speak to those, like that select group of people, and really hone in on the specific problem and the way that it shows up for them in their life, they're 75% sold already. And I think that's the thing, that people fear it, and people fear niching down too much. But all my intention is, by talking about messaging, is to open the door to a conversation, because there will be people out there listening right now that go like, oh my God, I need to talk to her. And then once that door is open, then I can still show you my buffet. Yeah. So that would be the biggest thing. Like, I would get really specific on what you want to hang your hat on. Like, what is the element of what you do that you could say, you know what, I'm a business coach, or I'm a health coach, or I'm a love coach, or whatever, but I really specialize in helping you nail that first date, or I really specialize in, like, what's the thing amongst your vast array of skills that you can go, but I'm going to put this as my specials board out the front, and this is what I'm going to use to actually get people in the door. And then, once I've taught you how to nail your first date, of course you're going to want to learn how to, like, be able to communicate with your partner and keep the love channels open. Like, here's the rest of the things that I can help you with. But what's going to actually get them in the door?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Right. No buffet, only the sandwich board. Board at the front. I'm literally going to use that all the time now. I totally love this conversation, and I will definitely be getting you back for the buffet another time, because I would love to know all the other things that you do as well.
Awesome.
But thank you so much. So those people who are listening and do want to come and lovingly face stalk you, how can they find you? But how can we find you?
Well, fortunately enough, I have a unique enough name that I'm pretty sure I'm the only one on Facebook. Actually, you know what? I think there's another mole who came along with the same name as me. So now there's 2. But you should be able to find me. So it's Melinda Kitto. That's Kitto. Stalk me on Facebook, or you can visit my website, which is melindakitto.com. I do offer a message makeover assessment, and this is one of my favorite things to do, because it's you and me for 20 minutes, and we can just dig into really quickly the way that you're currently talking about your service or your business, and some really subtle shifts that you can make that makes it a hell of a lot more compelling. So that's usually the first way that I go about connecting with people and getting them on the journey of getting their messaging like schmick.
Great. I'm going to hang up and go and book one of those for myself.
Please.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been just so much fun and so specific. Surprise.
Excellent. Nailed it.
About your sandwich board. So thank you so much. Really appreciate coming on the show, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Claire.
Great. See you later.
Bye.
And that is absolutely it, my lovely. So I hope you've really enjoyed the episode. It was great fun recording that one, as it is with all of them. If you'd like to connect, I'd love to stay in touch with you. I have a beautiful Facebook group community at bit.ly/The Recovering Perfectionist Crew, with all capital T, R, P and C. I have a massive goal this year to get 50,000 downloads on my podcast, and I've got a YouTube show as well. So I'd love for you to help me out if you can by either subscribing to the podcast on iTunes. So if you want to go over and do that now, that would be awesome. If you have a couple of favourite episodes, or if there's one favourite episode that you've really enjoyed, I would love you to share that with anyone who you think would get as much out of it as you have as well. And while you're in iTunes, if you can jump in and give it a review, that would be amazing. iTunes definitely helps out podcasts that have got some good ratings and reviews and some really interactive listeners. So I would really appreciate your help with getting to my goal of 50,000 in 2017. The show is also available over on YouTube. The links are always in the show notes, so you can head over there. So it's The Recovering Perfectionist on YouTube. There's a channel for that as well. So jump in and leave your comments. You can watch all of the episodes in video. So if you want to see what we look like and our crazy hand gestures and facial expressions and all of that sort of thing, absolutely jump in. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel show as well, and then you'll be kept up to date when there's some new episodes that come in there. So yeah, love your support. And if you want to shoot me an email, it's hello@claireandclaire.com. clairebarton.com.au. Always happy to receive your emails and open up a conversation. All right, big love. I'll chat with you soon. Bye.